Islam Zindabad, Islam Zindabad, Islam Zindabad, Islam Zindabad.
الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. The delegates of a few of the Arab tribes came to Medina to negotiate with the Khalifa of the Muslims, Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. They said, we never gave up Islam. We bear witness and we testify that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and we will pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. But by no means are we going to pay you zakah. And these Arab tribes sent very high-level delegates, people with some old connections with notables of Medina. So the friends of this leader in Medina would stay with him, and the friends of this leader would stay with him. So they weren't only negotiating with the Khalifa directly, but also they had some of the notables of the Muslims speaking on their behalf. And all of this pressure was mounting on the Khalifa. Plus, from a religious standpoint, it wasn't very clear to the Sahaba yet. So even Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu was discussing this with Al-Khalifa Abu Bakr. Now with Umar bin Khattab, it's not at all because he was pressured by some of these tribes or because he had some relationship with them, no. He was arguing from his understanding of the Sharia evidence. So he went to the Khalifa and said, and this is in Bukhari, كيف تقاتل الناس وقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يقولوا أن لا إله إلا الله فمن قالها فقد عصم مني ماله ونفسه إلا بحقه وحسابه على الله. Umar ibn Khattab said, how can you fight them when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I was commanded by Allah to fight the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah. If they do, then they have protected themselves and their wealth. Now this hadith of أمرت أن أقاتل الناس came in various forms, but the hadith is mutawatir, the highest level of hadith. A hadith that is mutawatir is a hadith that is narrated through so many chains of narration, it becomes impossible to refute. It is the highest level of authenticity. This hadith was mentioned by so many Sahaba, just to name some: Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Anas ibn Malik ibn Abbas, and Nu'man bin Bashir, many. I think more than 15 Sahaba, or more than 20 Sahabi narrated it. And it's in Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, An-Nasai, Ibn Majah, Al-Hakim, Al-Darimi, Al-Tabarani, Musnad al-Imam Ahmad. So the hadith is very strong. And the nas of the hadith is, I was instructed to fight the people until they testified that there is no God but Allah. Now, when this hadith is mentioned, people think that it contradicts the ayah of Quran, La ikraha fid din. There's no compulsion in religion. Because the ayah says there's no compulsion in religion, while this hadith says, I was instructed to fight the people until they testified that there's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And another narration, وَيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُ الزَّكَاةَ, and they pray and they pay zakah. So, how do we combine between these two nas, text? Well, there were quite a few different interpretations given by scholars referring to this hadith. One of them is that Rasulullah ﷺ was instructed to fight the people until they accept either Islam or jizya. So by accepting jizya, even though they didn't become Muslim, they have accepted the rule of Islam. They accepted the hukm of Allah. and that the whole earth needs to be ruled by the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. But then as individuals, Islam cannot be forced on them. So you cannot force a religion on a person, because it's an issue that goes back to the conviction. It's min a'mal qalb, it's something that is in the heart of a person. You cannot force a person to be convinced in something. Therefore there is no ikrah fi ad-din. But in terms of the law of Allah Azza wa Jal, people need to be fought until the law of Allah Azza wa Jal is established. Anyway, so Umar ibn Khattab goes to the Khalifa and says, how can you fight them? They are saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, and they're praying. How can he fight them? Now, neither did Abu Bakr nor did Umar hear about the different narration of the hadith that says, and they pray and they pay zakah. Because if they did, then there wouldn't be any argument. What was the response of Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu? He said, Wallahi لأقاتلن من فرق بين الصلاة والزكاة فإن الزكاة حق المال والله لو منعوني عناقا كانوا يؤدونها إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لقاتلتهم على منعها. He said, in the name of Allah, I will fight whoever differentiates between salah and zakah. And if they prevent me a camel, one camel, and in another narration a rope that you tie the neck of a camel with, if they prevent me that and they used to pay it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm going to fight them over it. Umar ibn Khattab said, when I saw the conviction of Abu Bakr As-Siddiq, I realized that this is the truth. So again, Abu Bakr As-Siddiq here is setting the rules for the Khulafa after him. Umar ibn Khattab here is wondering whether a person after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a right to fight against people who are claiming to be Muslim, but they're not fulfilling all of the ahkam of Islam, al-fara'id. But Abu Bakr As-Siddiq is saying that that is part of the authority of the Khalifa. That is part of the authority of the person who is taking the position of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after he passes away. And he is telling the Khulafa after him that it is your responsibility to enforce the law of Islam, even if the people who break it claim to be Muslim. So this is another case, an example, where the fiqh of Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu prevails and is established as al-haq, even by the people who are against him, like Umar ibn Khattab. Umar said that I came to realize that his opinion was the right opinion. So all of these, again, are issues relating to the Islamic politics, if we could call it, or the authority that is given to the Muslim leader. So Abu Bakr is establishing a sunnah. He made this clear to all of the delegates, and they left without any agreement. Now, Umar ibn Khattab, he went to Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu and he said, Ya Khalifata Rasulullah, ta'allaf al-nas, warfiq bihim. Umar ibn Khattab said, oh, Khalifa of Rasulullah, ta'allaf al-nas, bring them close, warfiq bihim, be lenient with them. You know, because of the condition that we are in, you need to be lenient. You need to give and take with the people. You need to show them a soft side. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, obviously this is not his, you would find this strange, this statement strange to come from Umar ibn Khattab. That's not Umar that we know. But Umar ibn Khattab was keeping in mind the circumstances of the situation. I mean, Medina is in danger. The entire religion is in danger. The Muslim community is in danger. Umar ibn Khattab is not saying to negotiate on issues of religion, but he's just saying that be a bit more lenient with these tribes. They are claiming to be Muslim, so give and take with them and try to reach a deal. What was the response of Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr grabbed the beard of Umar ibn Khattab and he said, Ya ibn al-Khattab, أجبار في الجاهلية خوار في الإسلام. He said, oh son of Khattab, you were a tyrant before you became Muslim, and now when you became Muslim you want to become lame, feeble and weak. And then he said, قد انقطع الوحي وتم الدين أينقص وأنا حي. He said the religion has been left by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam complete. Do you think that I will allow it to decrease while I'm still alive? I'm not going to allow the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal to diminish. I'm not going to allow it to go down while I'm still alive. As long as I am alive, I'm going to fight for this religion. So Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, whom the other tribes were calling him the father of the young camel, was proving to be a different person than who they thought. Abu Bakr As-Siddiq then went out to the Sahaba after the delegates left, and he told them, إن الأرض كافرة وقد رأى وفدهم منكم قلة وإنكم لا تدرون أليلا تؤتون أم نهارا وأدناهم منكم على بريد وقد كان القوم يأملون أن نقبل منهم ونوادعهم وقد أبينا عليهم ونبذنا إليهم عهدهم فاستعدوا وأعدوا. Abu Bakr As-Siddiq, after he gathered the Muslims, he said, the land has sunk into disbelief, and their delegation has seen that you are few, so that you would be unaware whether you were approached by day or by night. The nearest of them is only a stage from you. The people were hoping that we would accept them and be reconciled with them, but we refused them and dissolved their treaty, so get ready. He said they wanted to make a treaty with us, we refused. And they've came to Medina and they have seen how few we are, because they had, when they saw the army of Osama, they thought that there might be this huge army in Medina, but now when they came to Medina, they saw the reality. There weren't many people there. So the weakness of the Muslims was exposed in terms of their lack of numbers. And he said, be ready, because they could attack us at any moment. What was the plan of As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu to defend Islam? Number one, he had the soldiers sleep in the masjid, camp in the masjid, so that they could be ready at any moment to immediately protect Al-Madinah. He doesn't want everybody to be in their house. He had the force ready, and they established their base in Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi. That's number one. Number two, he had guards on all of the mountain passes, on all of the routes leading into Medina, so that they would give an advance warning to the Muslims in Medina in case there's any attack. And he appointed the Umara over these guards, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awam, Talha ibn Ubaidillah, and Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. These were the heads of the security guards that were surrounding Medina from every direction. And number three, he tried to mobilize the Arab tribes surrounding Medina who were still Muslim, like Ghafar and Juhayna and Aslam. And these Bedouin tribes did support. For example, Juhayna, they sent many camels into Medina and they put them under the hand of Al-Khalifa radiallahu anhu to use however he sees appropriate. So they did offer some help. Within 3 days, as the Khalifa expected, the tribes who were just in Medina did prepare an army to attack, and they made their move. So the Sahaba who faced them were fighting them on camels. Now the enemy has found this innovative way of scaring the camels. They use these like balloons made out of skin, animal skin, balloons that they would fill, and then they would throw these balloons and roll them in front of the camels. And they would kick them so these would roll down in front of the camels, and that would terrify the camels and the camels would run away. It was so bad that the camels just turned around and went back to Medina, along with all of the Sahaba. So the camels got out of control and the Sahaba weren't able to bring them back. This made the enemy think that the Muslims are weak and that they ran away. So it was the qadr of Allah that they be dragged to Medina that way. Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu in the meanwhile was preparing a huge army, and he led it by himself, and they went out under the cover of night to ambush the enemy. And the enemy did not know that the Muslims were coming. They didn't expect that the Muslims will come out to meet them. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the Muslims attacked them from every direction right before Fajr, when it was still dark. So by the time the sun was rising, the enemy was already turning their backs and running away. And that was the first victory that occurred, and that was what they have called Bidayat al-Fath. That was the beginning of the opening. The news spread. So in that same night, the Sahaba in Medina would see some people coming to Medina, and they would always assume that it is an enemy attacking. And Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu would tell them, no, this is good news. And they would find out that it is people bringing their zakah. Some of these tribes coming to pay their zakah. One tribe came and delivered the zakah at the beginning of the night. A second tribe middle of the night. A third tribe towards the last hours of the night. So immediately, within one day, things were changing and turning around. Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu went to fight again. Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu and the Sahaba, they went to Abu Bakr and said, you should not go out and fight yourself. Appoint somebody to lead the armies, because if you are killed, that will be very difficult for the Muslims, and that will be a great victory for the enemies of Allah. Have somebody else go out and lead the battles, the armies. Abu Bakr As-Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, no, I'm not going to stand behind, and I'm going to give you an example through my own self. So the old man who has already passed the age of 60 is leading the war by himself and fighting. And he did that in 3 consecutive campaigns. Radiallahu anhu.